This is a Kuretake Gansai Tambi palette. Look at it, it's gorgeous. I wanted these paints for the longest time. As soon as I got them, I was too scared to use them. They're in between watercolor and gouache, and considering the price, they are scary. Today, I'm gonna show you 7 ideas you need to know to understand this wonderful art supply. Grab a palette, 2 pots of water, some paintbrushes, and why not pop on an art video? I've got apple cheeks and a lovely big sketchbook. Although this is getting a little bit wonky. Let's pop that up. Don't forget to add a little bit of water to the palette before you begin. This is good for all kinds of watercolor to activate it first, but it might be better to just add to the colors you think you're using because it can make it crack a little bit more in the palette if you're always reactivating it and drying it, reactivating and drying it. But by doing so, we get these lovely bright colors and it's more consistent too. The first idea is to grab the paint and really just go with the flow. Pop down a base color, add other colors, figure out how the paint moves across the paper, and in this instance we've ended up with a face, and learn that the paint's really spread. You can see the cheeks going into the lips, the nose, the eyebrows, but all of this helps because now we know that a second layer is needed to try and refine all of those details. The best way to learn is by trying and honestly failing as well as succeeding. Rescuing what we can, but also learning. The paints are super vibrant and we've lost a lot of highlight. So next time, need to add a little bit more water. And that's why it's always good to start by experimenting. Taking all of that information we've learned, we're now going in with an actual sketchbook idea. Jellyfish and regular fishies and joining them together loosely. Adding more water this time so that we don't lose too much of the light of the page. Loads of different colours and loosely joining them up, but bearing in mind that these paints seem to spread across the water a lot easier than other watercolour paints. So you want to only have them touching the slightest amount. Otherwise, something like that pink is going to take over the yellow, it's going to completely disappear, which you can see happening already. The paints do work differently to other watercolours. They are a bit thicker. That means we need to add even more water than usual and be very careful about where the paint is popped down. A super fun idea though. I hope you'll give this one a try. Moving on to number 3 and back in this cute little handmade sketchbook. Please don't ask where it's from. I actually got it from the National Gallery in London and it doesn't have a brand, it's just Indian cotton rag. I would love to know too, but the manufacturers don't seem to actually sell them themselves. Start off with all of these little blobs and then add to them. You might have seen this before in something like The Range or IKEA, one of those shops where they have all of that wall art and it's super minimalist posters or a little bit botanical. That's what I'm thinking. We'll start with loads of different blobs and then add some leaves on top. However, this is a journey. We're learning. I'm learning alongside you. Creating this video because I also have this Kuretake Gansai Tambi palette and I'm too scared to use it. It's very easily done. Like, it's a daunting palette. You can see it there. It's so pretty. You don't want to ruin it. You don't want to get it messy. It doesn't really come with a mixing tray and it's expensive. It's scary to use. So all I'd seen are videos online and I thought these colors would be pretty opaque. Going into this, they're not. We need a pan. It looks as though most people I'd seen online had the Art Nouveau palette and that one seems to have a lot of really beautiful opaque shades. So an idea like this would be perfect for that. I thought having slight slightly opaque colours was a Kuretake thing. That doesn't seem to be the case. Even these lovely pastel shades, the lovely mint green, the baby blue, they are transparent, and that's just something to bear in mind. I learned this at the time. This was a bit of a disaster. It looks like different palettes are used differently, and if you have one like this, all of those lovely opaque videos and pieces of art you see are probably not going to work like that, because you can't layer lighter colours on top of the darker ones with this palette. Okay, we're now moving on to my favourite sketchbook idea. This could work with any art supply of your choice. Just use a light colour, pop down some shapes. I've got a couple of moons and some stars. No real reason, they're just pretty. And all you need to do is reach for different colours and add little blobs around the outside. It's therapeutic, it's relaxing. You can use watercolour, you could use acrylic markers. Even something like neocolours this would work for. Any sort of pastel really. A good trick is to use a nice cohesive colour palette. Colours that are quite near each other on the colour wheel so that they're not clashing or accidentally creating brown when they layer on top of each other. Just cover all of the white that's underneath. It's like negative space but with extra steps, and the result is absolutely beautiful. You can add a little bit of detail to the inside still. It's a lot of fun and it's so pretty to look at and see all those colours underneath. If you're enjoying this video, why don't you go ahead and give it a like, hype, subscribe if you haven't already. There are 2 new videos every single week and I'd love to see you there. We have a wonderful community, a lovely safe space that we can all escape to. It really is something special. Going on a quick little side quest, we have some new Patreon members to add to the tree. First up, a request for Thumper, the little rabbit from Bambi. For Nature Nook Artist, the lovely Zoe, who I've been getting to know over on the Discord server. And I've got to say, this rabbit proved some difficulty. We're not using a pencil, just going straight in, and that was the first mistake. But both the alcohol markers and the fine liner spread on the IKEA roll. A little patch job there, but I think we've pulled it together. So moving on to the next request for the lovely Rebecca, welcome, who's requested a crocodile. I believe this is the second crocodile that I've ever drawn, and a pretty cool request too. It's a lot of fun drawing things that aren't cute sometimes. With the crocodile all done, we're moving on to Carla, welcome, who has a cute little ladybird, or ladybug. I don't know, I've always called them ladybirds. Let me know down below, what do you call them? Might just be the cutest insect there is. Well, definitely up there with butterflies and bumblebees. Next up we have Desired Gorgon, whose profile picture is a cute little fox, and I think that's exactly what we should draw. I don't think I've ever really drawn a fox before, but they are cute, aren't they? They're so bright, so orange. I don't know, maybe we should draw more animals on the channel. Onto the tree as we move on to the final new addition, a stag beetle. Didn't quite realize how difficult it might be to draw that and color that, because they're kind of color shifting, you know, depending on how you see them in the light. Really cool insects. And this is for the lovely Prism Aerolith. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Luckily, I think we pulled it off. And now I kind of want to draw more. The bugs are fun. And of course, a special thank you to every other sketchbook buddy. Now back to the next idea. For the next idea, we've actually moved on to drawing paper because I want to see if this paint works differently. It is watercolor paint, but it is also thicker. It doesn't really work in the same way. So let's test it. Going straight in with no sketch whatsoever and attempting to paint a little giraffe. If you're using the wet on wet technique like this, but sketching with that first layer, the best thing you can do is use a lovely light color. Funnily enough, with these Kuretake Gansai Tambi paints, they actually seem to move and bloom a lot more when it's color on color. Dropping the paint into water, they actually don't really spread very much, which can be good. That means it's a little bit easier to control. But sometimes when you use watercolor, you do want all of those gorgeous blooms. And in a lot of ways, these are a bit more like gouache because they don't spread and they don't go everywhere. But a good thing to remember is that you can still get that effect when you add it on top of color. It still spread, it still looks pretty, and it's made these little spots on the giraffe. But the biggest thing of note from this test, this palette actually works pretty much identically on drawing paper. That means if you're feeling scared to reach for the palette and reach for the good paper, you actually don't have to. You could just grab whatever sketchbook you're currently using or a little mixed media sketchbook. It doesn't have to be good quality watercolor paper unless you're planning to create a masterpiece. If you want to experiment and blend and have fun and just use the palette, you do not need to use the best sketchbook for this medium. Literally any old drawing paper still works because the paints actually stay wet on the page for quite a while, longer than other watercolors. For the next two ideas, we're gonna need something from the kitchen. Table salt. Okay, really you can use any salt, but they do work differently. Generally, the finer salt creates smaller patterns and bigger salt creates bigger patterns, so it really depends on what kind of look you're going for. That being said, this is a very unpredictable medium. Salt is strange and a lot of it depends on the paper you're using. That being said, the Kuretake Gansai Tambi palettes generally work very well with salt. So we've got to use it for the next two ideas. The reason that these paints feel so different to other watercolor paint is that they are generally thicker, more opaque, and don't need very much water to be activated. But that means the paints are super vibrant and you can use it straight from the palette. And that's exactly what we're doing for this next sketchbook idea. Once you've created your watercolor base layer, all you need to do is reach for some salt and add it on top. There are a ton of different factors that go into this technique and how well it works. Make sure you play about and have fun with all of the art supplies you have. You can see a little bit of texture in this sketchbook. It's quite small, it's quite subtle, but different paper works differently. The amount of water, the amount of paint, all of that is a contributing factor. Especially in this palette because it's very easy to end up with thick paint, but for this technique to work you really want more water. A little bit of line work and it's just added a little subtle texture. Yes, we are attempting to paint a whale without a sketch and without a reference photo. Let's just ignore that. The whole point of this sketchbook idea is just showing how simple the salt technique is and that it's nothing to be afraid of. You paint whatever, you have your base layer. All you need to do is add some salt and let it dry naturally. Depending on where you live, this can be overnight. For me, it's generally overnight because I don't want to disturb it. And is quite a cold house. Some little swirls and bubbles on the outside, and once it's dry you can just scratch off all of that salt and go in with more details if that's what you'd like to do. This paper didn't work as well as the last one. Sometimes harder papers do actually work better than softer ones like this, but I hope this has encouraged you to reach for your palette and create. On any surface you can find, any subject, reach for that salt, see if you can make it work, especially better than mine has, and really just have fun, because that's what it's about. The only art supplies wasted are those that you don't use. It does take a bit of getting used to. I know I'm still struggling. The paints are very different to anything else, but they can be a lot of fun, and I hope that you'll try these. Enjoy the rest of your day, subscribe, and I'll meet you back here in a few days' time. Bye bye.